How's it going? I'm Ryan. Today I'm going to go over the one trade that I took on QQQ. I took some calls. I got stopped out. A little bit like bigger loss than I would have liked to take. Uh, we'll jump into that in just a second though. Looking at the daily chart here, you can see we had another inside day in terms of price remaining in the previous day's range. Another kind of choppy day, as you can tell, with that small candle body and wicks to both sides. So definitely a range day, and there were some trades to be taken. We can take a look at what I was watching here. This is on the 30-minute chart here. So I had the low of yesterday around 435, the high yesterday around 438, and this pre-market low here at 434.7-ish. Some zones, kind of this zone around 430, yesterday's low of day, this zone from like 436.25 to 436.5, and then a zone up here around yesterday's high of day around 437.5 to 437.8 or so. So to start the day, here we are. So to start the day, we kind of opened up in the middle of nowhere, right? We opened up in between yesterday's highs and lows and in between two zones. So nothing really to take off the bat, and just waiting around to see if price started to form a direction. We came down and tested yesterday's low around 435 and pushed up from there. Then we started to pull back into this area, and this is where I took my first trade. So I took calls on the retest of this kind of low a day 435 area. I took calls basing it off of the reaction that we got the last time we were down in here, and then I will also switch over to the 5-minute chart, or excuse me, the 1-minute chart, and show what I was watching there as well. I want to just quickly say though, looking back at this, with it being an inside day, with it being kind of in the middle of two zones, I don't hate that I took calls here. I think I could have waited for this 5-minute candle to close, which I did not. You see this 5-minute candle did not hold yesterday's low day. It did not hold that 435 level. So I think giving myself another minute and a half or so to let that candle close would have probably saved me from taking this trade, or at least maybe taking the trade with a little less risk. Let's jump into the 1-minute chart here, and I'll show you why I got faked out. So you can see when we came down into this area, you see the reaction we get, right? We get a big push in volume and we make a new high on the day, and we get these big green engulfing candles, very bullish, right? As we came down in this area, quickly reversed, bullish engulfing, higher volume, new high a day. With that being said, that high a day wasn't much, maybe an extra 10 or so cents. And then we came back down into this area. What I was watching is that volume kind of remained elevated here. So you see up in here when we started chopping around, volume was pretty low. Volume kind of increases. We have a really small green candle here. Low volume doesn't really mean much. Then we continue to have that bearish engulfing. From there, volume picks up as we test this low of yesterday, this 435 area, and this area that we bounced from earlier. This candle right here is what got me into the trade. So we have, like I said, kind of continued similar volume throughout. We tested that low of day. We even formed a little bit lower of a day, but printed this really bullish candle here. So I got in calls on this candle once we came down. We were coming down into this area again, and I took 2 calls here. I took 436 calls, so 436 was kind of right around the high of the day. What I wanted to see was a similar move like this, and I was targeting kind of that 435.9 to 436 area. So that was the move I was looking, is kind of that return to high a day. This candle fooled me. It tricked me because we quickly dumped right through it. I didn't execute. I didn't exercise proper risk management here, and that caused me to have a bigger loss on the day than I would have liked. I actually took this trade on the wrong account, so my trading account didn't suffer a loss today, but nonetheless I did take a losing trade, and it happened. So I got out once we broke below this pre-market low. So once we kind of broke that low a day, I was, price was still kind of hanging out, and then we got a big push. You see that volume increase, and we dumped down to new low a day and broke below that pre-market low. I should have had better execution on this in terms of my risk management. I didn't set a stop immediately. And so when we broke down, I just sold market and got out, which caused me to have, like I said, a bigger loss than I would like to have. Yesterday, I was coming off a day where I took a loss, but I had much better risk management, right? I set a stop loss. When I entered the trade, I didn't move it. I didn't get out of my position or, move that or take on more risk. I set my stop loss and it stopped me out, and that was it. Today was the opposite. I entered this trade. Generally, I would have probably set my stop to low a day, but I was a little biased and I thought that we'd still bounce. So I gave myself a little bit more room to work with here, and I stopped out once we broke below that pre-market low. So if I entered at 437 and broke out or stopped out down around here, it's about like did I say 437? 435 and stopped out around 434.7. It's about a 30-cent move. So yeah, that caused a much bigger loss. And when you see the volume and the momentum that these candles had, price of those premiums really dropped fast. So about a 30% or so loss. I try to keep them between 10 and 15% is where I find myself to be profitable. If I can keep my losses around 10 to 15%, I find that my wins will always kind of outpace that. But if I'm losing at 30%, then that's not a sustainable pattern. So bad execution here. We did get some nicer trades later on in the day. You can see we kind of pretty choppy. We kind of just bounced around in here, pushed up, came back down, pushed up, moved sideways for, really this is sideways movement from like 8 to 9, almost about an hour of not really much happening. We did get this push up. I think I got off around like 8:50 or so. So just a few minutes before we got this nice move. And if I take a look at the 5-minute, it's actually a pretty decent trade. So while we did have some kind of tough, rangy market conditions today, I do want to say that, even in this rangy condition, the morning was a little bit tough for me to read. We did touch this zone very briefly and didn't really come back down to it at all, I guess, until the after hours. So zones held pretty well. You can see that we came down, bounced around this zone before moving up to the next, rejecting off that zone, back down into here, almost back up to that next zone, back down into here. And I just want to highlight something like this is a good trade, right? You find that we held that pre-market low, bounce, form these longer wicks on increasing volume right here as we approach that level, kind of bounce level to level. Not bad. This trade right here is one that I want to look at though. It was kind of in the middle of some of that horizontal movement, some of that slower price action, lower volume. You can see that volume really dropped down in this time period. But we were holding above this zone and, had made some higher lows. So failing to make higher highs necessarily, but making some higher lows. We have this low, higher low, higher low, and then kind of continuation up. So missed this trade. That would have been a really nice move. Also, this rejection off this zone up here back down would have been a really nice move. So I think a lesson for myself and maybe anybody listening is when we're having these rangy days, when we have price action within the previous days, not establishing a trend, give it some time. Give it some time to play out. If it's going to be a rangy day, let it form that range and play the range. I think I took this trade too early without a ton of confirmation. I'm not mad necessarily. I did get tricked by that 1-minute candle that I showed you. It looked really bullish. It looked like we were going to hold this area that we bounced from earlier. But nonetheless, I didn't exercise proper risk management there, so it took a bigger loss than I should have. That's the only trade I took on the day. Like I said, we kind of chopped around here. SPY looked a little stronger on the day overall, but I missed a setup on SPY and didn't want to kind of FOMO in. We can take a look at SPY here, and I'll show you what I mean. So the trade that I liked on SPY was kind of this move in here. Obviously, I mean, 2020 hindsight, right? We got a big push out of there, but it was stronger than QQQ overall. We did make a new high on the day. We were making higher lows, right? We had these kind of double bottom here, new high on the day, higher low, pretty bullish, holding this zone, and then obviously continuation up. So SPY also kind of had this weird bounce that QQQ had, where it sold off into this area, short bounce, showed some bullish price action here with these longer wicks holding this zone before pushing back up towards that high a day. That was later in the day. I don't really trade that late in the afternoon, so would have missed that regardless. But some of these morning moves, like this one here, was pretty nice. Overall, though, not really what I'm looking for, right? I would have preferred to see a strong break above and then come down and retest and hold, but we didn't really get that, right? We got these long upper wicks. We were looking not too great overall, pretty choppy morning. So I'll say it again for myself to really just try to hammer it in, but if we're going to have a rangy day, if we're going to have a day where we're stuck within the previous day's range, let it establish a range and then trade that range. Don't be too greedy. Don't be too eager to get into a trade, and just let things play out and see how it works. You know, there's nothing wrong with not taking a trade, especially on a day like today. So, yeah, that's kind of my message for myself. And, you know, I know that some others maybe got tricked today and got kind of stopped out with some of this choppy price action. It's difficult to trade, and it's been difficult to trade the past couple of days. We've had some of this choppy action, and it is what it is. You have to, like I said, you have to let it establish a range and try to play that range if you want to take a trade at all. If you trade only, you know, momentum and trends, then maybe just sit back and stay away from the indexes on days like this. But that's all I got for you. I do appreciate you watching. Thank you very much. I trade live Monday through Friday, so I'll be here for Thursday and Friday in this week. Hopefully ended a little better than the previous 2 days. Look to get back to having a little bit more patience, a little bit more discipline. That's all I got. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you. Peace.